So, okay, hi, my name's Darren Ward, sort of writer, producer, director behind the films coming out of Giallo Films. As a kid, I was very, very much into movies, and Saturday nights always used to run the Hammer movies, Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, and back in them days, VHS, V2000 even. They would be recorded, and I'd go down the next morning, and I'd watch Dracula, Frankenstein, and all of that, and that kind of got me into I loved movies, and I was always questioning how do they do that, and special effects and the camera angle. So I really did get into movies and sort of like horror at an early age, and then with the whole sort of home video boom, and the whole video nasties craze, titles would come in, cannibal this, zombie that, and the old man would watch them and
lured you into
yeah,
yeah.
I'd go down the next morning, and I'm sort of like 10, 11, and I'd be watching all these movies thinking, oh my god, but that was so cool, how did they do that? So always kind of had that in me that I wanted to sort of get involved and do something making movies. So I left school in '89, and a friend of mine from school was quite friendly with the local video rep, the local video stores. A lot of people watching this may not remember video stores, but got to be old. So he was a local video rep, and we would swap copies of the latest sort of imports from Italy, let's say. Dario Argento's Opera was one I remember swapping with him at the time. And he happened to mention one day, oh, you're into your blood and guts. I've got some friends that are, trying to get in the special effects side of the industry. And they're making home movies in their back garden. And they need a couple of people, because they're doing a zombie film. I need someone to have their neck bitten out. So, oh yeah, I'll do that. So I remember sort of going along, having my neck cast and meeting a good friend of mine, Alistair Vardy, and a couple of others, Andy Tiley and Dave Anderson. And we, from like 89 to like 91, did it in excess of about 15 short crime, gangster movies. Most of them didn't have any dialogue. It was just visuals with music off, music from Tangerine Dream, Terminator, whatever was big at the time. We'd just lay that over the top of it, and it'd be an excuse to go out on a weekend and blow stuff up. I'd get a phone call at home, being 16, 17, I was still at home with my parents, and the phone would go, we're going to, can I swear?
Yeah.
We're going to blow some shit up, says Al. So all right, then, so we go along, we'd just blow shit up, and we'd make it up as we go along, Oh, so Andy's going to come in here holding a plastic M60 with grenade launcher, and you're going to run over there, and all that. So that would be it. And at the end of the weekend, at the end of the edit, we may have sort of like a 5-7 minute little movie, and we didn't do much with it. We just sort of packed ourselves all on the back and said, oh yeah, your effects work's getting better. And I then found myself sort of moving away from wanting to do special effects, and I sort of found my footing with the camera. I loved sort of just picking up the camera and being heavily influenced by the Italian movies, especially Fulci and Argento, was to try and grab that camera and do something interesting with it. So then that kind of brought us around to 91. I started to sort of make my first feature.
Yeah.
I sort of like didn't move away from the other guys, but but at that time I think we'd stopped doing the shorts because of life events or whatever. So I just decided, right, I'll pick a couple of my own friends, and I use Al still for doing some of the makeup and the pyros, and we'd go and do this little horror movie. So I made my first movie, Peora Il Diavolo, in 91, shot on VHS, Panasonic M7, no expense spared there. And it just, was a movie about someone finding a bag of some ancient demon in it, I think, and they read aloud this curse, and that was it. The demon was free, and people were just getting stabbed up and puking up in my mum and dad's back garden, and that was like a 45-minute movie. And I kind of thought, wow, because at the time, but obviously the internet wasn't around, and the horror community and like genre fans and that, really, it was fanzines. There were a lot of fanzines floating about. So I kind of thought, well, I try and get the film out there a bit more. So I would contact such titles as Media Publication, In the Flesh, Bag of Sand, some of the fanzines that I contacted, and I basically sent up copies of these short movies, and they would do little reviews. And on a couple of them, I had covers printed up for Blue Fear and Peora, and basically sold a few copies from the back of these magazines, and you get the letters back from people going, I really enjoyed this, however, more of this, less of that, and it's kind of like your first kind of critique is coming back for your short films. And so after the horror, I did Blue Fear, which is kind of like a Argento Giallo inspired 70-minute thriller. That was in '93, and again, same thing. I had some box art made up, and we sold it from the back of magazines. And in fact, I actually had our local video store put it on their shelf, and I went in a couple of weeks later to find out how many times people rented it out. And I forget the woman's name now, but she said, yeah, we got told off for that. One of the reps came in, saw it on the shelf without a certificate on it, and gave them the whole sort of speech of, you cannot put uncertificated stuff up in a video shop. So that was the end of that. So that kind of like takes us to about '94, and that's kind of like when I kind of bit into the whole, let's go for I mean, at the time it was like John Woo. I was really into John Woo at the time, and Peckinpah, so it was Squibs, a lot of Squibs ideas. Let's do a short movie where we can do a rival drug gang, I don't know, any excuse to have, a shootout in a local lime quarry, which, we were lucky enough to sort of land. And that was a short movie called Bitter Vengeance, and that kind of introduced the character Michael Walker. And if you've seen any of my other sort of feature films, you'll know that Walker then had his own movie in Sudden Fury, and we're now doing Beyond Fury 20 years later, a sequel to that, but more on that later, I guess. But so I ended up with a 17-minute movie, and it's like, what the hell do you do with a 17-minute movie, and you're like 20 years old or whatever? God. And it around the same time, Jeremy Beadle had started doing something up at BAFTA called BAVA, British Amateur Video Awards, and you had a remit. They couldn't be any longer than 18 minutes. Anything kind of goes, and they'd be judged and put into genre categories. And if you were lucky enough to win, you'd get like a little plaque.
Yeah.
So we had sent our 17-minute piece in, and it got highly commended. Missed out on an award, but highly commended was good enough. And one of the judges' comments at the bottom of this sheet was, would love to know how this would have turned out into a feature film. So that kind of like got me thinking, well, okay, let's expand Bitter Vengeance into a full-length feature film. So I started to write ultimately what turned into Sudden Fury. And so from April '95 till August '97, Sudden Fury was shot, and the movie got bigger and bigger. And I tried to get some finance. Ultimately, the finance to complete the movie came from a company in Germany, but originally I had some interest from America. And being naive, young, and whatever, I signed this contract, which kind of made me sign up to this. I got to deliver in a 90+ minute movie. So it really was like, right, shit, we got to bring in a feature. So Sudden Fury just kept getting bigger and bigger. And by the by, this contract thing fell through, but I was determined at that point, no, I'm going to make a full-length feature movie. So we cracked on with it, and it was all self-financed, family and friends, up until the point we needed to shoot the end shootout of the movie, which I think is about half an hour of the finished movie, is this end set piece, which had men on fire, cars blowing up, guns rattling off, all real guns with gun armourers, none of this fake muzzle flashing CGI and stuff. It was all the real deal. In fact, the gun armourer that came down had a lot of shells left over from the Stallone film Judge Dredd. So in all the shotgun firing scenes right at the end of the movie in the warehouses, they were specially made up cartridges which gave you more fire and less of the grit And that was made up specially for Stallone. So that was a little thing. Oh, we got some Stallone's cartridges here. So that kept us happy for a day or so when we were shooting that. And that was shot over like 3 months. We'd go to a place in Lymington in Hampshire, which was a old disused sort of landmass of warehouses and outbuildings, and basically there was one old guy that was security. And one day in my day job as an IT guy, I was driving past this Ampress site, it was called at the time, and I just happened to stop in and say, look, any chance we could do some filming here? I've got this action movie, want this big climatic end shootout, and this looks ideal. So we got no real official permission. The security guy just said, yeah, give me a couple of quid each time you come in and you can get on and do what you like. So literally we had the run of the place, and we blew the hell out of buildings. We raced the cars around there, we smashed them up, and had a real good fun. As I said, I fell in love with Italian splatter and horror movies. So the Lucio Fulci and Ruggero Deodato and Umberto Lenzini, and for all those guys, I lapped up their movies. So to say I wasn't slightly put on the track of wanting to do a violent action movie, he says you're influenced by other films. No, but so David Warbeck, I was a big fan of him from The Beyond, and obviously Sergio Leone's A Fistful of Dynamite, because I'm a big spaghetti western fan as well. So I just happened to be at a film festival in Hampstead, Eurofest, that was run the tail end of 1995, and it was a weekend session, and we were sat at the bar, I think on the last day, and David just happened to walk in. He wasn't there as a guest. He just lived nearby and had been to a couple of these other festivals that had been arranged, and just thought, why not? I'll pop in. So he popped in, and my good fortune that day was that I blagged it. Sorry, Dave. I didn't actually have Pike's character written for you at all, even though I went up to him with a business card thinking I was great with my little Giallo Films business card. I'm making a movie. Do you want to be in it? He kind of like just sat back, looked at me, and I just get from the look on his face, he felt he had to say yes, but he said yes. Come up and see me. So I kind of like, yes, that's sorted. But then, on the same token, I knew I didn't have his character written. I'd completely blagged that. So I went back to my friend Adam, who I was there with, and went, shit, Warbeck said yes, I better go home and write his scene. So I did. I went back and wrote the 2 scenes that Pike is in. Went up to see him, his magnificent sort of pad he had up in Hampstead, and showed him a couple of the scenes we'd already edited on the movie, and he was really, really impressed with that, and said, look, yeah, I'll do it. I don't want payment. I'll just do it for the love of it. And basically that's how David got involved. And unfortunately, I only sort of got to know him the last 18 months of his life, because he's sadly passed away of cancer. The day before we finished shooting Sudden Fury, which we shot the first day of August, and the day before that I'd been up to his funeral. But he was a great bloke, very humble, and again, like with Giovanni Lombardo Radici, who I've worked with on a couple of movies we get to, these guys, it's like when it's something to actually, I think, grow up watching and admiring someone on the screen, but then when you actually get to meet them, you instantly, you do get the sweats a little bit. You're like, oh my god, here we go, but I've just been, I guess I feel really, very lucky that I've managed to land the actors that I've seeked out to work with. They've all sort of like come on board the projects, and they've just been great fun to work with. Really chilled. No, they're not divas, and for them, they couldn't believe prior to all the internet that these small movies they'd done for, a bit of pocket change had actually become into these worldwide, cult classics. So when the internet actually did hit, they couldn't believe the amount of people out there from all over the world that were, knew every line, every little nuance of their performance on these movies. So they just have a blast, and I pretty much write these wild characters for them, and there's no point anyone's trying to reel me in with them. They've just gone with the flow. It's just like, yeah. And then sometimes they've even added little bits to it. It's like, oh, yeah. So no, it's been an absolute pleasure and a joy, and I feel honoured, I guess, really, because on their CVs, you know, The Beyond as one, Fistful of Dynamite, and then right at the tail end is, you know, Sudden Fury. So what more could I ask for? And with Sudden Fury, now being 2018, this year hits its 20th anniversary, and you know the movie's still getting re-released. We got the sequel kind of 70%, 80% finished, hopefully to get released at the end of this year. So yeah, it's exciting times. But yeah, I mean, it amazes me really now, 20 years later myself, seeing this small movie that was shot on U-matic. It was shot for £15,500. You know, I occasionally still get emails from people from random countries going how much they enjoy Sudden Fury, how it made them want to get out and make movies. And I even had a really nice email from a German director, Timo Rose, who actually said to me that he loved Sudden Fury so much at the time, he actually, as a homage, called one of his characters in one of his subsequent films Walker, as a little homage to Sudden Fury. So little things like that, you know, it's nice. You don't know these things are going on, you know, and obviously if you, the blood, sweat and tears that you have to put into independent, well, any movie, but, you know, specifically independent movies, the amount of energy and time that goes in there, little things like that make it all worthwhile, because you've actually hit your audience, or people are actually coming back to you saying, oh, I've enjoyed this, or even if they don't like it, you've still hit an accord with them. So whether, you know, you're getting, you got people going, oh, yeah, no, that's the latest shit, or that's the best independent movie I've ever seen, you just got to take both on the chin and accept it, because everyone's got their own opinions. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of quite strange, because at the time I spent, you know, 2 odd years on making this movie, and then suddenly it's done. You know, your score's done and it's finished. And it's like, I've not been in this position before. It's that whole, God, what do I do now? What do I do now? So internet was kind of on board around about 98, I think, because I think I was dealing. I think the first festival Sudden Fury screened at was at Raindance. So yeah, it got shown at the Metro, I think it was at the time, up in Leicester Square. So that was a great experience, because again, you know, I had done short movies, but never features where you actually go somewhere and you're screened and you're sat there with an audience, and these people have got nothing to do with the movie. They're literally there to watch your film. And that's one of the scariest things, because you just think, oh God, I mean, obviously I like it because it's what I wrote the damn thing, and everyone in it's going to like it because they're in it. But this is our first real audience. So that was quite nerve-wracking, and I'd like to say it went well. It went well, and we had people coming up to us afterwards, saying how much they enjoyed it, and laughing at the amount of blood and guts we had sort of spilling across the screen. And yes, I think everyone went home that night with a really good buzz. And subsequently, the film, through its partnership with the guys from Germany that put some money in to complete the movie, they kind of went their separate ways, and one of them moved to Spain. So he moved to Barcelona, and then the Sudden Fury got picked up and released in Spain and shown at the Citrus Film Festival. So that was, you know, a step up from Raindance. The Citrus Film Festival was massive, you know, and I was quite lucky at the time, quite happy at the time, because I went along there with my agent I had at the time, and I got to talk with Stuart Gordon and Brian Hughes. And they were really big on the horror scene back then in the 90s. Not so much now. It's like careers have died down a little bit, but yeah, you just sort of kind of get your first exposure to that international film festival, and then comings and goings of it all. So probably rabbit in the headlights of the first few festivals, but you kind of then, you get used to it, and then suddenly you're waltzing in like you're an old veteran to it. So yeah, you know, Sudden Fury, I never expected. Did I expect it to sell round the world? Probably not when I was making it, because we had never done these shorts which we watched with friends, and that was it. So when it did start first getting released, it was like, wow, you know, I'm actually a proper filmmaker now. You know, it does give you all of that, the confidence and that as well. And, you know, it was quite successful. It went on to be, you know, released Germany, France, Indonesia, Thailand, you know, all around the place. And as I said before, it still gets re-released in certain territories now. I think they're on the 4th release in America. And it's amazing for something that costs peanuts. It's not even the catering budget for one day on a proper feature, you know. But it's still coming out. And, it you know... Lots and lots of happy memories on that film. So yeah, so Sudden Fury '98 came out. We were still going around to festivals with it until around tail end of 2000, early 2001. And before Day of Violence, I wrote a script for a short movie. It's the only film I've shot on film called Nightmares.
Yeah.
Shot on Super 16, and then you suddenly you feel like a proper director. I'm shooting on film. I'm actually shooting on film, not video. I'm a film director now. But we only had, and I'd been to Cannes the year previous, and we shot Nightmares in 2003. Came out in 2004. So I'd been to Cannes, and I'd picked up a royalty check on sales for Sudden Fury, so that funded Nightmares, and we shot that over a weekend. It's only an 11-minute piece. But at Cannes, I had gone on to some parties, ended up on the Kodak / Fuji boat with the guys that run that, and blagged some film stock. So basically got back to the UK, phoned up a guy called Roger Sapsford, who was working for Fujifilm. I said, "Hi Roger, I'd like to take you up on that offer of some free film stock." And we got 4 cans of Super 16. Each can was 10 minutes, so I had 40 minutes of film. And that is what we used to get the finished product, the 11-minute version of Nightmares out. And different kettle of fish from what I'd been used to so far, because unlike video, once your film's gone, your film's gone. You can't rewind it and record over it. Let's go, another take, another take, another take. It really did make you stop and think, rein in, and get those shots precise. And again, with that, we went to Cannes with it. There was talk of a feature getting done. I wrote the feature script because we had interest on finance. But ultimately, Nightmares did festival circuit. It was premiered in LA at the LA International Short Film Festival. It got picked up by Propeller TV. So we had over, I think it was about 2005 by this point, Sky played it about 50 times on Sky TV, which again was great exposure for myself, because I felt a few years had gone by since finishing Sudden Fury, and as they say, you're only as good as your last movie. Well, okay, a few years had gone by, so I was kind of panicking and thinking, right, we've got to do something that we can hit the festival circuit with, hence Nightmares. And at the time, Harold Shipman and a couple of other serial killers had been in the paper. You know, this doctor that ended up killing like 300 odd people. Yeah, everyone, oh, he's such a nice guy. I've lived next to him for 20 years. So that did get me thinking, and Nightmares was born from that. Like, you know, these our neighbours, these people we live next to. John's a lovely bloke. Turns out one day John's killed, 16 people, but I've known him for 20 years. He'd never do a thing like that. But so these people do exist, and there's a bit of dialogue in Nightmares at the end. The serial killer says, turn on the radio, open a newspaper. People like me are all over the world, and people like you never see us coming. It's because they're so well integrated. So that was my little statement to that. And here's so yeah. So then A Day of Violence, and again I used Nick Rendell, who played Walker in Bitter Vengeance, Sudden Fury. He played our nameless serial killer in Nightmares. And then my daughter was born in 2006, and I was kind of a bit of a rut. So I had other scripts that I had written. I got a zombie script that I've never really done anything with, called Insurrection, and I had another action movie. But I kind of just wanted to go somewhere fresh with it. So being a father for the first time, one evening I was just sat there and I was thinking, what would someone do for flesh and blood, for family? So I started to write the script for A Day of Violence, which revolved around a debt collector doing one last job. He stumbles on, rather than a couple of grand, he finds 100,000, and he decides, I'll keep that. And what And what you don't see as an audience, you see him steal this money, and because he's done that, all these other people start getting killed really nastily. And it's a very violent movie. I think we kind of ramped up the violence on anything I'd done to date on A Day of Violence. Kind of just fit the bill, and the skills of the people around me, like Stuart Brown, that had done the makeup effects, special effects on Sudden Fury and Nightmares. He'd come up leaps and bounds. He'd been working on Batman and all kinds of big movies, and in Prometheus he'd worked on as well, or worked on subsequently after that. He's stellar prosthetics, and as a fan of an era of filmmaking where there wasn't CGI, everything was practical, gore effects, practical, and this, that, and everything else. That's the only route I wanted to take as a director as well. I didn't want CGI, so everything had to be practical, and I think we've got some real good stellar makeup, gore effects in A Day of Violence. So, but anyway, it was born out of me, my daughter arriving, and me thinking, God, if anything happened to her, what would you be willing to do to get your revenge, or whatever you want to call it? So Mitchell, in A Day of Violence, again played by Nick Rendell, finds himself in this situation, and innocent people do get taken out along the way, but ultimately he's stolen that 100,000. His stepdaughter's been in a car accident, she's in a coma, and the money is for pioneering medical help that's going to hopefully get her out of this. So that is kind of like his reason behind everything that he's doing. And again, with A Day of Violence, I really wanted to work with another actor that I had grown up as a kid seeing and admiring on screen, and unfortunately David had passed away at the end of Sudden Fury. So MySpace was a big thing at the time before Facebook, and I'd been on MySpace, and I stumbled across a page what I thought was a fan page for Giovanni Lombardo Radici, aka John Morgan. So I just sent a message going, is this really you, Giovanni, or is this a fan led page? Because I've got a script for a movie which I'd really like to send to you. Didn't think anything of it. The next day I got an email back going, all in block capitals, yes, it's really me, Giovanni Lombardo Radici. So our friendship was born from that, and literally, I sent the script over to Giovanni, Johnny as he likes to be called. So Johnny read the script, come back going, I was actually in tears by the end of it. It's the first time anyone's told me they've cried reading one of my scripts, but he thought it was really emotional with the child angle, and he said, look, I'll do it. I whatever it takes, I will do this film. And he wanted to play a much bigger role. He wanted to play the part of Boswell, the main sort of bad guy in the film. But at the time, as with even now, and make any independent movie, I was worried, knowing the way I had to shoot this film, again, on weekends, because myself and my cast and crew, they've all got full-time jobs. A lot of the crew work in the industry anyway, so they'd be on around the world on other gigs, and I would literally have to get weekends lined up well in advance so I could pull everyone together and shoot these scenes. So I knew flying Johnny back and forth from Rome just wasn't an option. I couldn't afford it. So we compromised, and I said, look, this is great, nasty little character of Hopper, this weaselly, skanky drug dealer, and I kind of think it fits into some of the other characters you've played in previous movies. So he said, okay, so I'll go back and I'll have another read of it. And he come back and, yeah, you know what, I think I can do a really great job of Hopper. And with Johnny, he likes to assign animal traits to his characters. So he said to me, I'm going to play Hopper a bit like a grasshopper, a little bit twitchy, okay. And again, up until that point, you sort of get your actors in front of your camera, you tell them what to do, and they do it. But here was Johnny going, well, no, I think my character would be this and that and everything else. And again, it's like a door was thrown wide open, and it's like, okay, I'm going to, obviously you've done all these great movies, I'm just going to trust you with that. And I just threw him the character, and he basically turned Hopper into what Hopper is on the screen, with a weird beard,
Yeah.
You know, it's like, why did you just give him like a ZZ Top beard with no moustache? And it's just like, I saw a picture online, and I'd sent him a picture going, I think this will be great. Let's do the beard, but let's not have a moustache. It's just like, why not? It just make you stand out. And it did get commented on a few of the reviews going, you know, here's Giovanni, notorious, you know, 80s splatter, most banned man in the UK with this most freakish beard and you know, in this low budget UK movie. So, you know, A Day of Violence ultimately ended up costing just under 50,000. Financed again from begging, borrowing, and stealing, but mainly by myself. But so Johnny said, look, I'll do this part of Hopper. So Stuart Brown, the special effects guy, and Johnny happened to be over at a film festival in Manchester, so we kind of gate crashed that and took all the bits up there to be able to cast his neck. And I remember I'd spoken to Johnny numerous times over Facebook, MySpace, and email, but we'd never met. So we turn up at his hotel, and here we are with buckets and tools and plaster. And he goes, "This is the point, isn't it?" And I remember we sat him down in a chair like this, and he's off to he's got his top half exposed. He's got a bin line around him so he doesn't get any of the plaster on him. And he says, he looks up, and I think it's in the making of on the movie. He actually said, "This is the point where you turn around and you're not actually a filmmaker at all. You're just mental serial killers, and you're going to kill me." And at that point, we could quite easily have killed him. He was very, very helpless and defenseless. But no, we're here to do the movie, Johnny. You're all right. So we had a good laugh about that. And so we cast his neck there, and that's what got the ball rolling with Johnny. And he came over for 3 days to shoot his scenes as Hopper. And it was shot in November 2008. And, you know, the movie carried on for a while after that. It was actually completed April again. April's a very lucky month for me. It was completed in April 2009. The last scenes we shot on that film were the actual nightclub shootout at the end. And, you know, we'd shot the movie on a FX1 Sony, so, you know, it wasn't great shakes, but you're talking, we started in 2007, so at the time it was a decent enough camera, you know, and I think it looks quite solid. It's a very solid movie, and obviously being older, being around in the business and knowing how the buying and selling and films previously, I was a little bit more savvy. And as the film was in production, I went to Cannes 2007, 2008, and I went to the film markets, and I was showing footage to potential distributors way before the film was ready, just to sort of gauge the market, see what sort of, you know, films were out there. And you know, so when it was completed, I actually went back to Cannes having made enough contacts the previous year to be able to just drop screeners into people, and it was pretty easy to get a sales agent for that movie. And you know, the film went on to be shown at some of the biggest film festivals in the world. It screened in Cannes. It was screened at Fantasporto. I was very lucky to go on and win 6 international awards. It's been released in multiple territories, and now, you know, 2018, for the last almost 3 years. Yeah. I've been making the sequel to Sudden Fury called Beyond Fury. If I was to be brutally honest, I actually suddenly just sat here now looking at that time span. It's been brutal. It's been absolutely brutal. There's no easy way on making a movie of this scale and scope, I feel. I mean, each film I personally do as a director, I like to try and, you know, push it, make it bigger, make it larger. There's no point just going at a comfortable level where, you know, you can just churn that out. I mean, it's so everything I've done is got, you know, has been getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And to be honest, Beyond Fury is a beast. I liken it, not in quality, sorry fans, because they only shoot me down if I liken it to this, but to me personally, it's my Once Upon a Time in America for indie gangster movies. Some of my other previous features got criticised because all this stuff was going on and we'd never have police involved. Well, guess what? We got MI5 agents and we got coppers on the tail this time. So it's branching out and filling in those gaps and giving the characters more dimension, giving it more scope. The actual look of it, we're shooting Beyond Fury on a Blackmagic in RAW with a 2.5K RAW image. Those file sizes are huge. We're using prime lenses, so we've got film lenses on there as well. And I just want this film to look as epic as it can for the budget and the resources we've got. As I say, we've been filming now for 2.5 years. We've got 90 minutes of the film edited, not all graded but edited. We've got 7 scenes left to go, which are hardcore sort of action stroke gore sequences. I've got to deliver what people expect from my movies. At the moment, there's a lot of talking with a few sporadic bits, but we've got to gel it all together. So it's a massive, massive, massive task. It's the biggest task I've ever undertaken, and it's been tough. There's been moments of jubilation. You've got everyone together, and you've done a great scene. You've done a great 4 days solid shoot, and everything's looking fantastic. But then it's like a drug. You've then got the come down on that is I spent 6 months organising 4 days with people from 3 different countries and all over the place. Well, that's done now. I've got to get the money for the next batch, and you've got to go through it all again. And sometimes because of other people's commitments, I guess I speak for a lot of independent filmmakers, is if you're not necessarily paying people or paying them what they would get on a daily wage, why are they going to just jack in work for a week to come and shoot? You've got to do it on weekends. So it's very, very tough to get those people together. But we'll do it. I'm like a bull to a red rag. Once I start it, I'm never, ever going to stop. So we've got 7 scenes left to do. So hopefully by the end of 2018, certainly beginning of 2019, the trilogy will be complete and Beyond Fury will be out. I mean, I've been saying no more films. I don't mean literally no more movies. I just films of this ilk. I've been sort of like in that action, crime, gangster, stroke horror. We all gets labelled as horror because we've got a lot of gore in it. They're not horror movies, but it kind of falls in. So yeah, I've kind of spent 20 years on that in that genre. I would love to do a small contained horror movie, not necessarily monsters, maybe a stalking slash, but something but with a bit of a twist. I mean, obviously it gets done to death, so if you're going to do something like that, it's going to have to stand head and shoulders above the thousands of other titles that fit within that genre. So it's difficult. Excuse me. I got a script for a pure sort of like purest form giallo movie called Passion that I wrote 5-6 years ago. It's not complete. It's like 70-80% complete, but I'd like to go back and finish that. And I've also written a script as like a drama action movie, but not so much heavy on guns, but set in Malta. It's about a guy that goes on a 24-hour postcard shoot day and night for postcards and happens to catch some dodgy drug deal going down in an alcove. And he basically ends up getting chased around Malta, which is a 9/16 island in the Med, and using catacombs and all sorts of stuff. It's a different kind of script story than anything else I've ever written, and it is something that I would like to go back to and actually make a movie. Well, giallo films was just spawned from my love of the giallo genre. After I'd made my way through all the zombie and cannibal flicks that Italy had to offer, I was always a fan. Out of all the Italian directors, Dario Argento always leapt out from the screen to me as an aspiring filmmaker. Just his camera movement, the composition, framing, lighting, use of music, everything. So when it came to me doing my first short movie back in '91, Paolo Diavolo, giallo films just seemed like the natural, even though they're not films that are giallos, it was just like something that I wanted to lift out of everything that I'd loved, and then just use it as the company name. So, yeah, hence Giallo Films. But it would be nice to actually get a purest form Giallo out on Giallo Films. But we'll do that later. Something I've always tried to keep apparent on the set, whatever film we're making, is the energy. Which is why it kills you so much. Some people see after you've done a 2-day shoot and they're saying, well, why are you looking like death's door? You're like you haven't eaten for a week. That's just the physical, mental abuse you give yourself getting these films done. You don't eat. I don't eat when I'm on set. I mean, everyone else is eating. I can't eat. The energy's going so much. I just want to get on. That is something from Sudden Fury that I carry through every movie. Is you want to surround yourself. It's not always possible, but you want to get people with that passion that are going to carry that passion with you. It's cold, they're hungry, it's dark, you've been shooting for 17 hours, you got another 3 hours to go. You don't want people, I want to get home. You need those people that can keep your energy up as well. So, yeah, that, I mean, an experience, I mean, obviously you learn by your mistakes, you know what does work, what doesn't work. Maybe it's just your camera angles. Over doing several action movies, you pick up what shots work and what shots don't work, and like fight scenes, cheating angles, and I mean that's just like tricks of the trade. I guess you bring along with you in every aspect of the filmmaking. But with it being independent, and I guess I speak for many other independent filmmakers as well, is you don't just wear that director's cap. You don't turn up on set and I'm the director and I sit in my director's chair. No, I'm the caterer, I'm the runaround, I'm the taxi driver, I'm the organiser, I'm the producer, I'm the writer, I'm the director. I even jump in and help the special effects. I do lighting as well. Everything. You do not have the you don't have the scope and the that's the word I'm looking for. The pleasure of just being able to sit back and do that one job. It just wouldn't get done. This is the thing. You're not paying anyone. Most independent filmmakers, your money, you want it to be on the screen because you're bringing in something that everyone knows you've not had £1 million to do or 10 million. You're doing something for tens of thousands, if you're lucky, a little bit more. So you want to engage with your audience, and no matter how diverse that audience is, so you need the key elements, so that's where your money goes, on filling the screen and getting your compositions and your action. If you're doing an action movie like me, I can't turn on a movie that's got 90 minutes of talking and 2 minutes of action. It's got to be set piece dialogue, set piece dialogue, heavier set piece. God, we've already seen 10 shooting, so then the squibs get bigger and then more bits fly off people because otherwise you're desensitized before you even get to the climatic shootouts or whatever. And you could say, I mean, from Sudden Fury, especially with Day of Violence and what's coming up with the scenes left to shoot in Beyond Fury, the set pieces are getting a bit more grand guignol, they're more gore laden. There's still a lot of gunplay coming up for the end of Beyond Fury because everyone tells me how crazy Sudden Fury is. I mean, I've got to top it. You can't bring out something called the most epic revenge movie ever and it not be epic and not have any blood and guts on it. So we really do hope we're going to turn in something for all you splatter fans out there. And if I don't do my business, you know what, you're going to drag me out to do a fourth one. beyond Fury. No, but yeah. Firstly, I'd like to say a huge thank you to everyone that supported me and every other sort of independent filmmaker out there making these movies, because it's not a 5-minute job. It's a 2.5 year, 3 year job of your life making that movie. That's not to say if we didn't have the budget all in one lump, we'd love to do it in a 2-3 week block, but it just doesn't happen like that. So I'd like to thank everyone that's stuck with me and Giallo Films, and you enjoy our movies, which is great, which is why we're still making them. I think maybe even if you didn't, I think I'd still make them. There's something inside it I've got to be doing something. I couldn't just sit there, because every time I watch a movie I'm moaning about this and that and I could do that better. I mean, but no, I mean, the fact is, people, I still get emails. I'm not trying to say I get sack full of emails. I'm not going to bullshit you. I get the odd email now and again from people from different countries saying how much they enjoy Sudden Fury, and they send me photos of their 6 or 7 different copies of it, proud that they've got. And it's great. I mean, that's like me growing up as a kid. I loved the Italian movies, the horror movies and giallos. And I would buy them, and I'd buy multiple copies because I wanted that artwork over that artwork. And to know people doing that on your own films is kind of like crazy. But that's what makes all the blood, sweat and tears worthwhile, because if no one's going to watch them or enjoy them, I mean, what is the point? So we've been very lucky with doing these small movies, and I feel the success they've had in terms of distribution and awards, and the fact they're still there, or Sudden Fury's still there 20 years later, is testament that I've maybe done something right for. I know, it's not like a niche market, but it's not everyone's cup of tea. But if you can please the people that like this type of movie, people that were like me when I was growing up, or like me, like horror, like hard action, then yeah, I'll keep on doing it. I mean, obviously when we were doing it ourselves, I mean, with the shorts before Sudden Fury, when we were like Andal Visions and we made our 15 5 to 7 minute movies, they didn't really get seen by anyone. It was more like we did it for our core group, the 10 of us or whatever, and we'd sit there and slap each other on the back. Oh, this is great, and if we do that again, we could get it better by doing this and doing that. You never I didn't know of this independent scene, to be honest. I kind of got a bit more of an inkling for it, as I say, when I was doing my real early shorts, like Blue Fear and stuff, because I was selling them in the. Well, start again. Yeah, I got a bit of an inkling when I was doing my early movies, because there were, at that time, the early 90s, mid 90s, there were a lot of fanzines around, because you didn't have the internet, and that was that way of communicating to fans of that genre. So it kind of, okay, there are people around the country and pockets of people that are really into it. I'm not the only freak that loves gory Italian splatter horror and will watch it 20 million times and then find out something new. I've never spotted that before. I used to watch them over and over again, and then I'm getting off the subject, but the actual scene itself, I mean, it's quite insular. I mean, I was in Southampton, I've always been in Southampton. The other guys I was doing these shorts with, literally stone's throw from each other. So didn't really know of the scene as such until, I guess, Sudden Fury was out. Yeah. So you're going to the late 90s. But during the course of making Sudden Fury from 95 to 97, yeah, I was going to film festivals, so I was going to like the all weekenders up in Hampstead. And then you were seeing a cinema packed full of people like yourself, wanting to watch these movies on the big screen, and you'd have guest stars there, so you get to meet Fulci and Warbeck and Catriona McCall and lots of other people from these flicks. And so then when you're at the bar and you look in your little pockets of friends, you'd overhear other conversations, and you hear of other filmmakers, and it's kind of like that how I met Alex Chandon. Because Warbeck had done a small piece for him on his feature Pervarella, and it just so happened that then me and Alex were on Hotel Babylon, which was like an ITV Meridian TV program back in the 90s. So we got interviewed together on that, and then subsequently David was in Sudden Fury, and he used to throw great parties at his house, and we'd bump into Alex here, there, and sometimes, and then years would go by and you wouldn't see anyone else, and then you'd be at another festival and you'd see other people. That was how I got to know the small amount of other independent film directors that I know, and I don't profess to know a lot of the scene. Yeah. Because like you say, without the internet in the 90s, unless you actually were in that town or in that city, how did you even know these people? You don't even know they're about. As technology's evolved and we've gone on, internet, social media, it is the perfect platform now to, push your product, get your name about and get it out there. But the only problem with that, with the pros come the cons, is everyone can now do that. You know, you can make a movie that looks better quality than Sudden Fury on your mobile. You know, it's just the way it is. So you're up against a lot more competition. It's such, if you look, I don't ever look at it like that. I don't think, oh, so and so's done this, I've got to do something better than that. I don't take it like that. It's like, either I like the movie or I don't like the movie. It's just like, you know, it's why everyone's got their own opinion. You don't have to like what I like, and vice versa. But so you are more aware of the other independent directors out there, and you do see some independent directors, their films take off. You know, and some others don't seem to be in that position to want to push it bigger. They keep it smaller on intent and do limited runs. I see a lot of guys on Facebook, like Harry Collins and the hardcore gore guys. They make a lot of stuff, short independent movies in the States, but they kind of keep it amongst their own, and they're still swapping tapes and discs like we used to do in the 90s. But there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's just that's fine. So I think you've got levels of people that want to do it, but maybe they don't want, they can't do a feature, or they can't get it out there, so they stick on the shorts. But shorts are good as a starting block, and I you know, we started with shorts, and I went back to do a short of Nightmares because I needed to, after the bit of a hiatus after Sudden Fury, I wanted to get something out there relatively quick, not take 2.5 years to shoot it. Did it on a weekend. And you know, you have got that the benefit of that now. You can get stuff turned around and out there and to your audience in a click of a button. People upload it, like you say, Vimeo, YouTube. You can stream movies up there. You know, digital downloads, distribution going away from physical media. Personally, I'm always going to be a physical media person. I like to hold that box, see that. I don't want a copy burnt on a CD. I mean, it's so what? I got 2,000 movies, but they're all on memory stick. No, I want to see the glossy covers and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And I've gone completely off tangent. Fuck, do we get to that? A little outtake. A Day of Violence was completed in 2009.
Yes.
And I think the first release was 2010 in the UK, 101 Films, and that subsequently hit the festival market and got a lot more territory releases. And it was around that time, around about 2012, that I dusted down the original Beyond Fury script, which I had written in 2001. And, you know, I started to read through it, and I thought, yeah, you know what, there's quite a bit of that. That's all right, actually. I forgot all about writing that scene. It kind of like worked. But what I couldn't do is the original script was going to be a direct follow-on from Sudden Fury. So as it fades out of Walker shot up, and it would continue. But, you know, we're in our 40s now. We're not in our 20s anymore. And Nick's hair's gone, and he's a bit heavier, and there's just no way, you know, it's the same bloke, but there's just no way unless we completely de-aged him like Benjamin Button to make him look like Walker from 1998. So I had to change the opening, and I think for the best, it's turned out a much meatier script than it would have been. So now in Beyond Fury, it's 20 years obviously after Sudden Fury, we find Michael Walker. He's ex-mercenary, he's settled back into civilian life, he's got the apartment, the girlfriend, a baby on the way. He's completely out of the game. And he's out for a meal with his girlfriend. And walking back after the meal to their car, they get attacked by some thugs, random thugs in a van, and ultimately it ends up with Walker's girlfriend. Claudia's dead, the unborn child is dead, he's left for dead, and he's got nothing left but to rely on his old way to get revenge. So, you know, he's been out of the game for 20 years, so he has to rely on some old friends, acquaintances of his to sort of get him the guns he needs to go back and do this one-man Rambo. But it turns out that the guys that attacked him are street soldiers for the UK's most feared import gangster, a gangster called Ivan Lenzovich, played again by Giovanni Lombardo Adichie. And unlike A Day of Violence, where it was quite a small cameo role, Giovanni is main player in Beyond Fury, and you'll find him all the way through it, and it's got some cracking scenes he's in. We also had the pleasure, actually, a friend of mine, Joe Roberts, had done a film a few years back called Forest of the Damned, and he'd worked with a German actor, Dan Van Heusen, who I'm very sort of aware of his work via his spaghetti westerns. He did 25 between 67 and 72. He'd worked a lot with Sergio Corbucci, and if you speak to him, he'll tell you he missed out. If he'd got into the game a couple of years earlier, he would have been in a Sergio Leone western, but met him at a party, but never got in there. But so anyway, waffling on. My love of spaghetti westerns, along with having Giovanni in the movie, I wanted to get some other faces as well. So, and funny enough, Dan lives in the UK, he lives in Somerset. So I contacted him, and he's jumped on board as the priest, as Walker's salvation. Unfortunately, I'm going to say this, I'm going to look out in the camera and say, I've not had any run-ins with the BBFC, and I'm really upset about that. Because I really tried. I mean, I grew up on splatter, yeah? Banned video nasty. So, of course, my movies are littered with the sort of gore footage, death scenes that once upon a time the movie would have been cut to ribbons or banned. But funny enough, I've had no censorship issues at all in the UK, and I can tell you a funny little story about a day of violence. I happened to be in Portugal at a film festival, and I was introduced to one of the senior board examiners there. And I said to him, you know what, I'm really gutted. I tried so hard to make A Day of Violence gory enough to get it cut and banned, or at least infamous in the UK, and you passed it uncut. What's all that about? And he said, and the guy, Craig Lapper, sort of stroked his chin, and he's going, what film was that? And I said to him, A Day of Violence. Oh, it's the film. A friend of ours said, well, a bloke's hung upside down and his cock and balls are cut off with a pair of shears. Oh yeah, I remember the movie. He said, don't worry, he said, the lower level examining board were concerned with it and raised it to my attention. I was having a good day and passed it. And he looked at me, and with a smile he says, you're going to have to try harder next time. You threw the gauntlet down, Craig. So with Beyond Fury, we are going all out, hopefully, to get it at least cut. So no, I've been lucky because especially in the last decade and a half, the censorship laws in the UK have really, really relaxed, and you get violent material footage in 15s now. I mean, you see more blood and guts in some 15s than you would in half the video nasties. It's because everyone got wrapped up in that whole kind of craze, but we've come out of the dark ages a little bit, and you know, and everything's a little bit more relaxed. And I guess you could say, well, does that then, do people that go out of their way to make stuff as insanely gory and nasty as they can? Well, there's me going, well, you know. Yeah, I mean, you've got a benchmark to try and hit, because I guess like you've said, Matt, is with my previous movies there are certain levels of violence in them that if I was suddenly to bring out the next piece like Beyond Fury with that title and what's come before it, and it's a bit more sort of like Bambi, it's just not going to work with the fans of the original work. So and it's not like I'm not into self-censorship at all. I wouldn't go down that route anyway. But there are some, you know, each movie you do, you try and top the previous one. And I know A Day of Violence got very controversial in some places because of in particular the castration sequence. So with Beyond Fury, I've got, it's got to be on a certain level. Yeah. If it drops below the bar, then you know, what's the point? But yeah, you know, I'm thinking, you know, talking about No More Guns. If I had the money, my dream movie. If I had the money, and I could do anything I'd want to, I'd go to Almeria and I'd shoot a spaghetti western on the sets, because they're still there. I've been there several times, and you go round and where they good, the bad, and the ugly. It's all still there. I'd love to do a really hardcore Peckinpah-esque John Woo squibby western, you know, bit Django Unchained, you know,
Yeah.
a little less dialogue, Quentin, a bit more shooting. That's how I'd do it, but I do like your westerns, so carry on. So, yeah, going right back to the beginning, with the really early shorts, just before I started to went off and did like Blue Fear and things like that, no one would see these short movies apart from family and friends. You know, you'd sit around and you'd have a good crack and, you know, you'd get on with it. I mean, and then I did self-distribute with Peora and Blue Fear and even Bit of Vengeance, even though there was no cover for that. It's 17 minutes. We still managed to flog some copies. And literally that was taking little free ads out in fanzines, local video stores, things like that. But even with Sudden Fury, that when it was first released, because of the deal I did in Germany to complete it, those guys, without me, had set up the German release and the Spanish release. So even up to that point, I had no experience of distributors or sales agents or anything like that. My first experience of that was the first year I went to Cannes. Before I'd gone to Cannes, and don't ask me how or why, I got to speaking to a US sales agent called Amsel Entertainment. And for the life of me, I can't remember how our paths crossed, but I ended up sending a VHS screener of Sudden Fury to them. They said, "Yeah, we love it. We'd take it. If you come over to Cannes this year, we get all the contracts signed." So that was my excuse and push to finally get my ass to Cannes, because I just hadn't gone up until that point. So I got over there, signed a contract. They made more sales. That was all great. And then suddenly, oh yeah, we've sold it for this much, but then we got our 20% cut. You start to see how the sales agents work and how the distributors work, and the artwork and all the back end costs that as a filmmaker you just don't envisage, you don't see, you don't know of. Suddenly we've sold your movie, let's say $10,000, but you still owe us $2,000. Huh? Well, we spent $5,000 on artwork, we spent on this, ad trades, getting here, our stand at Cannes, us taking a wine and a dine and a drink, and everything the sales agent does comes goes against you on expenses. So if they're whining and dining or taking a piss, guess what? That's coming out of any money you're going to get. Yeah. And it's things like that you just don't. I don't know. Maybe it's being naive at the time, I guess, because if you've never been in that situation, why would you expect that? So along the years and the time it got round to like Nightmares and A Day of Violence, you're savvy to all that. So it's more of your choice. Have I got the time to self-distribute? No, because I've got 2 kids at that point. At the end of Day of Violence, I had someone who was born as well. So I've got 2 kids, a full-time job, a mortgage. There's only so many hours in a day. I can't do it all. So, yeah, I got a sales agent. And the only pros and cons, and I'm not going to mention names of sales agents or whatever, because it doesn't matter how down the ladder or how far up the ladder you are. The rules are the same, yeah? The rules. But they take your movie, they take your baby, you've spent 2 years on it, or longer from the writing stage, it's your baby. You're literally handing this over to someone else. It's like literally getting your newborn and then going, "Matt, she's now yours." And I've got to trust you. As much as, well, what have you got as a sales agent? You've got my product, you've taken it because you've liked it. So there's that trust element is not there on their side. But literally, you got to trust them to run with that film like it's the best thing in the world. But they've got 10 or 15 other films on their books. And that some of those other films do go up to £1 million budget. And you're sat down here under 100k. Are they going to push your movie as much as that movie? You think they would. They should do, because there's commission on every sale for them. Not necessarily how it all works out. And this isn't to paint a bad picture of sales agents. It's just sales agents are sharks. That's just the way it is. It's how they make their money. Everyone's in the film business to make money. Even you as the independent filmmaker, you could be doing it for love. But I'm at that stage now, I want to make money back from these films. So you make another one, or at least make all that hair loss and stress and everything else, worth it. So what I would say is self-distribution, and again, I've got no experience on doing video on demand, digital sales myself. Yes, I've pushed stuff up to Vimeo so that other people can then, with a password, download it and watch it in the hope of selling it. But in terms of like being sat as it was mentioned, like bedroom sellers, home sellers, churning out movies, making thousands, just self-distributing on a digital platform, I don't know. Not experienced it. I mean, Day of Violence, Sudden Fury, I mean, they're on digital platforms, iTunes and iPlayer and all that sort of jazz. You can download them and watch them from your laptop. That's fine. Doesn't beat physical.
No, of course it won't.
But, the other thing to be wary of is, your sales agents can go to 5-6 more markets in one calendar year all around the world. And as I mentioned, flights, accommodation, their pitches, their stands, everything is split on the books. So if you've got 10 movies, it's split 10 ways. Doesn't matter if you're a 50 grand movie compared to $1 million, it's still split. So if you don't make big sales on those first couple of markets, well, guess what? You incur massive expenses. Okay, usually you make sure you get an agent where the expenses are capped, so it can't go above that. But then they make a big sale, but it's year 2, and they phone you and they tell you, yeah, we've made this big sale, but don't forget you owe us 25,000 in expenses because we didn't sell anything last year. So great, your movie's out there, your film is out there, but you're not seeing anything back for your investors or anything like that. So, and that's not the case with every sale. You do see money, but it's not like if you win it alone. So, having done having been there a few times and making a few contacts, I personally plan on this movie with Beyond Fury to go direct, not to loads, but there's a couple of key territories I would like to approach first and try and get that sale off the bat myself, cut out the middleman. There's no incurred expenses, and anything that comes in you put straight off onto your investors, and job done, everyone's happy. That's the ideal way of doing it. I mean, obviously you do a movie that everyone wants from the word go, you're never going to get in that kind of expenses bracket where you're fighting that to get real money in. But that's another thing with independence. You can't compete with those £1 million movies because they got all the big stars and everything else. So those movies are going to say what. So obviously the sales agent's got a harder push on doing a independent movie sale, but that shouldn't put anyone off doing it. And that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm saying is, you're a very, very, very small fish in a massive, massive ocean. And in hindsight, not in hindsight, but just giving you another angle on it, as no names mentioned, but I've got a friend of mine is successfully doing $10 million pound movies. Dollar? Start again. Another thing to mention is, it doesn't matter whether you're right at the bottom of the rung doing, 10 grand movies or $10 million movies. As a friend of mine who's his career's taken off and he's in America doing some $10 million movies. But you speak to them, it's the same. They've got more money, yes, and they don't have to worry about who's paying him and where that's coming from. But at the end of the day, that film gets turned over to a sales agent. But the beauty of being on a full budget production is you'll get a director's fee. Us independent directors, you don't get. I'm not taking a fee. Everything is going into the movie. If I make any money, it's when it's sales. People are being paid off. Then I can pay off some of the costs that I've incurred. But the only difference being doing bigger budget, you will get a fee, and maybe that sweetens the handover at the end because you're not as attached to it because you've had a lump up front. But when you're constantly wanting that film to sell because you need to make money back on it, it becomes a strain between you and the sales agent as well, because I've had run-ins with them because you feel they're not pushing it as hard as you are, and let's face it, they won't push it as hard as you, the filmmaker, would push it. And you do invariably. You have run-ins and you have fallouts, and that's just the way the way it is. And I don't think you can bypass that, if any of that. And if you can, good luck to you. But it's not something that been able to sort of bypass, you end up somewhere loggerheading with your finished product. So that's just a bit of a 20-year eye-opener that I've seen and still trying to overcome.